Hello everyone, myself Bismi Picharan, Assistant Professor at Suresh Ganvi High University. Today I'm going to take the seminar of this drug used in the congestive heart failure. We have discussed the drug used in the congestive heart failures in the previous class. So we have discussed about the cardiac glycosides and all. So in today's class I'm going to discuss the bosentan and the tazobactam drug. Okay, bosentan and the tazobactam's mechanism of action and the uses and the structure we will discuss in today's class. So the learning objective of this topic is this lesson will help the students to understand the mechanism of action, uses of the cardiac glycosides, mainly the bosentan and the tazobactam. Okay, and the cardiac glycosides are those drugs that are mainly used for in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. Learning outcomes. After this lesson, students will be able to describe the mechanism of action and the uses of the cardioglycosides, bosentan and the tazobactam. So before moving to this bosentan and the tazobactam, we have to know that what is congestive heart failure. So the congestive heart failure is a chronic progressive condition that affects the pumping power of the heart muscles. Means affect that the condition that affects the pumping power of the heart muscles. While often referred to simply as heart failure, congestive heart failure specifically refers to the stage in which fluid builds up within the heart. Okay, the condition in which the fluid builds up within the heart and it causes it to pump inefficiently. Okay, so the congestive heart failure is a chronic progressive condition that affects the pumping power of the heart muscles. Okay, the condition that affects the pumping power of the heart muscle is known as congestive heart failure. Okay, so the coronary artery diseases are the most common form of the heart disease. Okay, coronary artery diseases are the most common form of the heart disease and the most common cause of the heart failure. So this coronary artery disease is responsible for the heart disease and the heart failure. And this disease results from the buildup of fatty deposits in the artery. So we had discussed about the fatty deposits on the wall of the artery is known as hyperlipidemic or atherosclerotic condition, or we can say that buildup is known as plaque. Okay, and that plaque is means that due to that plaque the blood flow through this artery is not possible smoothly. Okay, so the disease that result from the buildup of fatty deposits in the arteries that reduces the blood flow and can lead to the heart attack. Okay, when the plaques forms inside the artery or on the wall of the artery, that leads to the decreased blood flow and that lead to the heart attack. Okay, so the coronary artery disease is the most common form of the heart disease and most common cause of the heart failure. And the disease results from the buildup of fatty deposits in the arteries that reduces the blood flow and lead to the heart attack. The symptoms of end-stage congestive heart failure include dyspnea, chronic cough or wheezing, edema, nausea or lack of appetite, a high heart rate, and confusion and impaired thinking. Okay, so the symptoms of end-stage congestive heart failure that include, okay, there are some symptoms in the end stage of congestive heart failure that include dyspnea, chronic cough. Okay, chronic cough, dyspnea is the last stage symptom of this congestive heart failure. Edema is again the symptom, nausea, lack of appetite, high heart rate, and the confusion and impaired thinking are the symptoms of the end stage congestive heart failure. Okay, so the congestive heart failure is the condition or is the state when the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement. Okay, so the congestive heart failure is the condition when the heart is not able to pump, okay, not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement. Okay, so what is congestive heart failure? Congestive heart failure is the state or the condition when the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement. In this condition, the blood supply to the heart is not able to meet the metabolic demand of the heart for the oxygen. So when this heart is not able to pump sufficient blood, what happens there? There is less supply of the oxygen. Okay, there is less supply of the oxygen due to the heart is not able to pump the blood. Okay, when the heart is not able to pump the sufficient blood, okay, at that time the supply of the oxygen will reduced. Okay, so CHF occurs, or the congestive heart failure occurs, when there is more demand of the oxygen, okay, than its supply. Okay, when this heart is not able to pump sufficient blood, at that time the oxygen supply will get reduced. Okay, and this congestive heart failure is occur when the oxygen demand is more rather than its supply. Okay, than its supply. Okay, so what is here? The congestive heart failure is the condition where the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement, and in this condition the oxygen level or the oxygen supply will reduce when the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood. Okay, and the CHF, or the congestive heart failures occurs when there is more demand of the oxygen, when there is more demand of the oxygen to the heart than its supply. Okay, so there is that is the condition, means when the oxygen demand is greater than its supply, at that time the congestive heart failure occurs. Okay, and the congestive heart failure is the condition where the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement. Okay, and these are some symptoms that will generate at the end stage of the congestive heart failure. Okay, so that is dyspnea, chronic cough, or the wheezing, edema, nausea, lack of the appetite, or high heart rate, and confusion and impaired thinking are the symptoms of the end stage congestive heart failure. Positive inotropic agent. Okay, positively inotropic agents increases the strength of the muscular contraction. Okay, so some agents are there that increases the strength of the muscular contraction, that is positively inotropic agents. The term inotropic state is most commonly used in reference to various drugs that affects the strength of the contraction of heart muscle. Okay, the term inotropic state is most commonly used in reference to various drugs that affect the strength of the contraction of the heart muscle, mainly the myocardial contractibility. Okay, so the positively inotropic agents are those drugs that increases the strength of the muscular contraction. Okay, that increases the strength of the muscular contraction. Okay, and the term inotropic state is the most commonly used in the reference to various drugs that affect the strength of the contraction of the heart muscle, mainly the myocardial contractility. So there are, okay, for the treatment of this congestive heart failure, okay, so we have used some agents to increase the force of the contraction of the heart. Okay, so the first is we had seen the positive inotropic agents. Okay, positive inotropic agents are those drugs that increases the strength of the muscle contraction. Okay, positive inotropic agents are those drugs that increases the strength of the muscle contraction. Okay, then second is the drugs that increases the concentration of the intracellular calcium. Okay, the drug that increases the concentration of the intracellular calcium that by inhibiting the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme. Okay, the drug that inhibit the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme to increase the concentration of the intracellular calcium. Okay, those drug is also used in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. Okay, when this calcium ion increases, okay, when this calcium ion increases due to the decrease in the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme, this calcium ion is increases in the cell. Okay, that increases, the calcium ion increases the myocardial contractility. Okay, myocardial contractility is increased when the calcium ion concentration is increases in the cell. Okay, how this calcium ion concentration will get increased? By reducing the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme. Okay, the drug that reduces the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme, okay, and increases the level of the calcium ion in the cell, and that when the calcium ion concentration increases in the cell, what happens that increases the myocardial contractility. Okay, so these two drugs we are using in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. Okay, and last drug is cardiac glycosides. Okay, cardiac glycosides are used in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. But among these three drugs, okay, positive inotropic agents, and the drug that decreases the enzyme sodium potassium ATPase, and third is cardiac glycoside. The cardiac glycosides are drugs mainly used in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. Okay, cardiac glycosides are used to treat the congestive heart failure. So the congestive heart failure is the condition, or is the state when the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement. When the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood, what happens that decreases the supply of the oxygen. Okay, decreases the supply of the oxygen, and this congestive heart failure occurs due to the decreased supply of the oxygen rather than its need. Okay, so at this congestive heart failure condition, there is more demand of the oxygen than its supply. Okay, more demand of the oxygen in this congestive heart failure, because the due to this condition, means the condition where the heart is not able to pump enough blood. Okay, enough blood to meet the body's requirement. That condition, what happens there? The amount of the oxygen supply will get reduced. Okay, oxygen supply, when the oxygen supply will get reduced, what happens? The demand of the oxygen will get increased. Okay, the demand of the oxygen is more rather than its supply. Okay, so this is the short introduction of the congestive heart failure. Okay, and the major cause of the congestive heart failure is myocardial infarction, high blood pressure, arterial fibrillation, and the abnormal heartbeat. Okay, when the heartbeat is abnormal, okay, in the condition of hypertension, okay, and in the myocardial infarction, and in the condition of atrial fibrillation, these four are responsible for, or the causes of the congestive heart failure. Okay, major causes of congestive heart failure are myocardial infarction, high blood pressure, atrial fibrillation, abnormal heart rate. These are the causes of the congestive heart failure. Okay, for prevention of this congestive heart failure, we are discussed about three categories of drugs. Okay, first one, positive inotropic drugs. Positive inotropic drugs are those drugs that increases the muscle contraction. Okay, the increases the strength of the muscle contraction. Positive inotropic drugs are those drugs that increases the strength of the strength of the muscle contraction. First drug is the positive inotropic agent. Second is the drug that reduces the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme. The drug that reduces the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme. Okay, when the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme reduce, what happens there? That increases the intracellular calcium concentration. Okay, intracellular calcium concentration increases. Okay, that calcium ion is responsible for the myocardial contractility. Okay, that is responsible for the myocardial contractility. And third category of the drug to prevent this congestive heart failure is cardiac glycoside. Cardiac glycosides are the mainly used in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. Okay, so what this cardiac glycoside is consist of two moieties, glycone moiety and a glycone moiety. We will discuss about that. So cardiac glycosides are the class of organic compounds. Okay, so these are the class of organic compounds that increases the output force of the heart. Okay, so this cardiac glycosides are the class of the organic compounds and that increases the output force of the heart. Okay, this cardiac glycoside is responsible for increase in the output force of the heart and increase its rate of contraction. Okay, increase its rate of contraction by acting on the cellular sodium potassium ATPase pump. Okay, how this contraction rate is increased? By acting on the cellular sodium potassium ATPase pump. Okay, so the cardiac glycosides are those drugs, or these are the organic compounds that increases the output force of the heart. Okay, this increases the output force of the heart and increase its rate of contraction. Okay, increase its rate of contraction by acting on cellular sodium potassium ATPase pump. Okay, cellular sodium potassium ATPase pump, and these cardiac glycosides are normally present in digitalis, squil, and the strophanthus. Okay, so the cardiac glycosides are present in digitalis, squil, and the strophanthus. And these cardiac glycosides are consist of two portion. Okay, sugar portion that is known as glycone portion, and the non-sugar portion that is known as aglycone portion. And this glycone portion is responsible for the solubility and the distribution characteristic of the glycoside. Okay, so this cardiac glycoside must have the sugar portion and the non-sugar portion. This sugar portion is responsible for the solubility and the distribution characteristics of the glycoside. Okay, sugar portion is responsible for the solubility and the distribution characteristics of the glycoside, whereas this aglycone portion or the non-sugar portion is responsible for the cardiotonic activity of the glycoside. Okay, this aglycone portion is responsible for the cardiotonic activity of the glycoside. If we think only the non-sugar portion is needed in the treatment of the CHF, but that is not possible without the solubility and without the distribution. So we have to include, or we will, this cardiac glycoside must have sugar portion and the non-sugar portion in their structure. And this sugar portion and the non-sugar portion, these two are combined with the glycosidic linkage. Okay, glycosidic linkage, and this aglycone portion have one hydroxyl group, so the sugar portion will attach to that hydroxyl group. Okay, so let's see the aglycone moiety. Okay, here we are discussing about the aglycone moiety, the steroid. This aglycone moiety is the steroid nucleus. Okay, aglycone moiety is the steroid nucleus, has a unique set of fused ring. Okay, so first you check this structure. So this is the structure of the aglycone. Okay, so this is the steroid nucleus. Okay, this is the aglycone moiety is the steroid nucleus, and these have unique set of the fused ring. Okay, so AB and the CD. Okay, AB and the CD, these two ring fuse, these two are the cis ring fused. Okay, cis fused ring, and whereas this BC, okay, BC ring is transfused. Okay, so this makes different from other steroid. Okay, this make different, this make the aglycone different from other steroid, because this aglycone portion of the steroid nucleus. Okay, so this steroid nucleus has the unique set of the fused ring system that makes the aglycone moiety structurally different from other common steroid ring system. Okay, so what is this? The steroid nucleus has unique set of the fused ring system that makes a glycone moiety structurally different from other common steroid nucleus system. Okay, and a glycone portion. Okay, so we have learned, you have to write it down. What is the aglycone portion? Aglycone portion is the steroid nucleus with unique set of the fused ring. I have told about that. Ring AB. Okay, we will see the structure first. So this ring AB and ring CD are cis fused. Okay, ring AB and ring CD are cis fused, whereas this BC ring, okay, this BC ring are transfused. Okay, BC ring are transfused, and this may different from other steroid structure. Okay, so this is the unique set of the fused ring. These are the unique set of the fused ring. Okay, the steroid nucleus carries two angular methyl group. Okay, so steroid nucleus. So this is the steroid nucleus. These have the angular methyl group. Okay, angular methyl group at the C10 position and the 13 position. Okay, C10. So look at this. This is the 10th position. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This is the 10th position. 11, 12, 13. Okay, so this egg-glycone moiety have, okay, egg-glycone or the steroid nucleus carries two angular methyl group. Two angular methyl group at the C10 and the C13. Okay, at the C10 and the C13. And this egg-glycone portion have one hydroxyl group at the third position. Okay, and this sorry, and this third position, okay, third position is the site for the attachment of the glycone moiety. Okay, the attachment of the sugar portion here. Okay, so sugar portion will attach at this third position. Okay, so what is this structure? This aglycone moiety is the nucleus or the steroid nucleus. Okay, this aglycone moiety is the steroid nucleus, and these have a unique set of the ring. Okay, unique set of the fused ring. So AB and the CD. Okay, AB and the CD are cis fused, whereas this BC ring are transfused. Okay, BC ring are transfused, and this aglycone moiety can have angular methyl group at the C10 position and the C13 position. Okay, this glycone moiety have two angular methyl group at the C10 position and the C13 position, and hydroxyl group is present at the third position of the glycone moiety, and this is the site for the attachment of the sugar moiety. Okay, this third position, the hydroxyl group is the site for the attachment of the sugar moiety. Okay, so this is about the egg glycone portion of the cardiac glycoside. Cardiac glycosides consist of two portions, glycone portion and the egg glycone portion. So we have discussed about the egg glycone portion here. So let's see the glycone portion. So the sugar 1 to 4 sugars are found to be present in the most cardiac glycosides. Okay, 1 to 4 molecule of the sugars are present in the cardiac glycosides, and that is attached to the third position of the hydroxyl group in the glycone portion. Okay, so 1 to 4 sugars are present in the cardiac glycoside. 1 to 4 molecule of the sugars are present in the cardiac glycosides, and the sugar moiety is attached to the, okay, will attach to the third position of the hydroxyl group of the glycone portion. Okay, and the main sugars, okay, the sugar that that present in the cardiac glycosides are L-draminose, D-glucose, D-digitoxose, D-digitalose, D-diginose, D-sarmentose, L-valerose, and the D-fructose. Okay, so these are the sugar present in the cardiac glycosides. Okay, these sugars predominantly exist in the cardiac glycoside in the B configuration. So these sugars predominantly exist in the cardiac glycosides in the B configuration, and the presence of acetyl group on the sugar moiety. Okay, the presence of the acetyl group on the sugar moiety affects the lipophilic character and the kinetics of the entire glycosides. Okay, so what is this? In the cardiac glycosides, mainly 1 to 4 molecule of the sugars are present in the cardiac glycosides, and these sugar moieties will attach to the third position of the glycone portion. The glycone portion have one hydroxyl group in the structure. Okay, so the sugar moiety is attached to that hydroxyl group, and the most commonly sugars are present in the cardiac glycosides are L-draminose, D-glucose, D-digitoxose, D-digitalose, D-diginose, D-sarmentose, D-valerose, and the D-fructose. Okay, the the identity, okay, the number and the identity, okay, the number and the identity of the sugar moiety vary from one glycoside to another. Okay, then if one glycoside drug, or okay, one glycoside contain 2 molecule of the sugar, or one glycoside contain 4 molecule of the sugar, so the number and the identity, okay, some cardiac glycosides contain the 4 molecule of the D glucose. Okay, some cardiac glycosides have two molecule of the D-digitoxose and 2 molecule of the D-digitallose. So the number and the identity of the sugar moiety vary from one cardiac glycoside to another cardiac glycosides. Okay, the sugar usually exists in the beta configuration. Okay, the sugar moieties exist in the beta configuration. Okay, and the sugar portion will attach to the 3-hydroxyl group of the aglycone moiety. Okay, so this is all about the glycone portion and the aglycone portion in the cardiac glycoside. So our drug is bosentan. Okay, bosentan is the drug. So this is the structure. What is this? Pyrimidine. Pyrimidine ring is this. Pyrimidine ring means 6-membered ring that have 2 nitrogen atom at the first and the third position is pyrimidine. Okay, pyrimidine, again pyrimidine, and this pyrimidine is connected with amine group. Okay, at the second 1 2 3 4 5 at the 6th position. Okay, 6th position the amine group is attached, and this amine group is connected with sulfur dioxide. Okay, sulfur dioxide is this, and this sulfur dioxide is connected with the benzene ring and one butane. Okay, butane ring means 4 carbon atom. Okay, 4 carbon atom means butane. Okay, so butane, benzene, sulfur dioxide, amine. Okay, for connecting this amine group is there. Okay, so this is the pyrimidine. This is again pyrimidine. OCH2 alcoholic group is there. Benzene ring OCH3. So this is the bosentan drug. Let's see the mechanism of action of this bosentan. The mechanism of action of the bosentan is competitive inhibition of the endothelin 1 receptor. Okay, endothelin 1 receptor is a, what is endothelin 1 receptor? Endothelin 1 is the neurohormone. Okay, endothelin 1. I'm not talking about the receptor here. Endothelin 1, ET1 is the neurohormone. Okay, ET1 is a neurohormone, and it produces its effects by binding to ETA and ETB receptor. Okay, this endothelin is a neurohormone, and that produces its effect. Okay, it produces, this endothelin produces its effect by binding with the receptor, ETA receptor and the ETB receptor in the endothelium and the vascular smooth muscles. Okay, so endothelin is a neurohormone, and it produces its effect by binding at the ETA receptor and the ETB receptors in the endothelium and the vascular smooth muscle. This level of ET1, okay, the level of ET1 in the plasma and the lung tissue increases the patient having pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, the level of the ET1 in the plasma and the lung tissue increases in the patient having pulmonary arterial hypertension. Bosentan is a specific and competitive antagonist of endothelin ETA and ETB receptor, having comparatively high affinity for the ETA receptor. Okay, so this bosentan directly binds with the ETA receptor, and this have the competition with the endothelin in the endothelium and the vascular smooth muscle. Okay, so the mechanism of this bosentan is competitive inhibition of the endothelin 1 receptor. Okay, and this endothelin 1 is a potent vasoconstrictor. Okay, endothelin is a potent vasoconstrictor. Vasoconstriction means increase in the blood pressure, which also mediates the cell proliferation, fibrosis, and the inflammation. Okay, so endothelin 1 is potent vasoconstriction. This endothelin 1 also mediates the cell proliferation, fibrosis, and the inflammation. It is mainly synthesized in the endothelium cells. Okay, this endothelin 1 is mainly synthesized in the endothelial cells, and act locally in autocrine and the paracrine fashion. Okay, autocrine and the paracrine fashion, this will act. Endothelin 1 is a neurohormone, the effect of which are mediated by binding to the ETA and the ETB receptor in the endothelium. Okay, endothelin 1 is a neurohormone, the effect of which are mediated by binding to ETA and ETB receptor in the endothelium and the vascular smooth muscles. It displays, okay, it shows a slightly higher affinity towards the ETA receptor rather than this ETB receptor. Okay, so endothelin 1 is a neurohormone. This shows the higher affinity towards the ETA receptor rather than ETB receptor. Okay, and this ET1 concentrations are elevated in the plasma and lung tissue of the patient with pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, ET1 concentration are elevated in plasma and lung tissue of the patient with pulmonary arterial hypertension, suggesting a pathogenic role for ET1 in this disease. And this bosentan is a specific and competitive antagonist at the endothelin receptor types ETA and the ETB. So what this bosentan do? Bosentan have competition with the endothelin receptor. Okay, competition with the endothelin 1. Okay, this bosentan have the competition with the ET1. Okay, for the receptor side. For the receptor side, these two have the competition. So this bosentan binds with the ETA and the ETB and reduces the concentration of the ET1. When this ET1 concentration is reduced, what happens? There is no the vasoconstriction. Okay, vasoconstriction not happens, the proliferation not happens, then fibrosis not happens, then inflammation is not happens there. Okay, because this endothelin 1 is normally act as a vasoconstrictor and it also mediate the cell proliferation, fibrosis and the inflammation. So this is the mechanism of action. Okay, mechanism of action of the bosentan. Let's see the uses of this drug. Okay, the bosentan is used to treat the pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, it is used in the treatment of the pulmonary arterial hypertension, the high blood pressure in the vessels that carry blood to the lungs. Okay, pulmonary arterial hypertension is a condition, the high blood pressure in the vessel. Okay, in the vessel that carry blood to the lungs. Okay, there is a vessel that carry blood to the lungs. In that vessel, the blood pressure will be increases. And that condition is known as pulmonary arterial hypertension in adults and children 3 years of the age and the older. Okay, in the adults, this happens, the pulmonary arterial hypertension happens, or in the children, the above age of 3. And the bosentan may improve the ability to exercise and slow the worsening of symptom in the patient with the pulmonary arterial hypertension. Bosentan improve the ability of the exercise and the slow the worsening symptom in the patient with the PAH, pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay. So this is all about endothelin 1. Okay, endothelin 1 is a neurohormone and it effects by binding with the two receptor, ETA receptor and the ETB receptor in the endothelium and the smooth vessel. What the level of the ET1 in the plasma and the lung tissue increases the patient having pulmonary hypertension, arterial tension. And the pulmonary arterial tension, what is the pulmonary arterial tension? The blood pressure increases in the vessel that carries the blood to the lungs. Okay, so this ET1 is responsible for the high blood pressure in the pulmonary arterial. Okay, that causes the high blood pressure in the pulmonary arterial. So bosentan is a specific and the competitive antagonist of this ET1. Okay, these have a competition with the ET1 in the endothelium and for the receptor sites. Okay, so this bosentan binds with the ETA and the ETB receptor and decreases the prevent the binding of this ET1 to that receptor. Okay, and when this ET1 doesn't bind to that receptor, what happens? That doesn't cause the pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, so this is used mainly in the treatment of pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, so this is all about this bosentan. Next drug is teizosentan. Okay, so teizosentan Look at the structure. Pyrimidine ring. In the bosentan, there is again pyrimidine ring, but this is not pyrimidine ring. Pyrimidine ring, only one pyrimidine ring is there. Okay, amine group is attached. Sulfur dioxide. Okay, one nitrogen atom, 6-membered ring that is connected with the propane. Whereas the bosentan is butane ring is there. O alcoholic group. This is the same like the bosentan. Okay, and this is the 5-membered ring that have 4 nitrogen atom. Okay, 5-membered ring that have the 4 nitrogen atom is the tosentan. Okay, so let's see the mechanism of action. The mechanism of action. Tosentan is non-selective ETA and ETB receptor antagonist. Okay, tosentan is a non-selective ETA and ETB receptor antagonist. It acts as a vasodilator. Okay, it acts as a vasodilator and was designed as a therapy for patient with acute heart failure. Okay, so this tosentan acts as a vasodilator, and this drug is designed as a therapy for the patient with the acute heart failure. Okay, so this tosentan is designed for the therapy for the patient with the acute heart failure. Recent studies have shown, however, that tosentan does not improve dyspnea or reduce the risk of fetal and the non-fetal cardiovascular events. Okay, so some recent studies are showing that the tosentan does not improve the dyspnea and the risk of the fatal and the non-fatal cardiovascular events, but this act as a vasodilator, and this was designed as a therapy for the patient with the acute heart failure. Okay, so this tosentan is a non-selective ETA and ETB receptor antagonist. Okay, so the tosentan relaxes the smooth muscles in the blood vessels. Okay, so this tosentan relaxes the smooth muscle in the blood vessels and dilate them. So this is acting as the vasodilator. Okay, tosentan, sorry, tezosentan. Tezosentan relaxes the smooth muscles in the blood vessels and dilates them. Okay, relaxes the smooth muscles in the blood vessels and the dilate them, and the dilation of the arterial vessels. Okay, the dilation of the arterial vessels reduces the systemic vascular resistance and ultimately leads to fall in the arterial blood pressure. So this tezosentan is also used in the treatment of the hypertension. Okay, but this is also given in the treatment of the CHF also. Okay, means why this tezosentan is giving to the CHF to treat the CHF, because the CHF is caused due to the hypertension. Okay, irregular or abnormal heartbeat. Okay, so if the hypertension will get reduced, at that time CHF condition will also get reduced. Okay, so tezosentan is used to relax the smooth muscle in the blood vessel and dilate them, because this acts as a vasodilator. Okay, and it is designed as a therapy for the patient with acute heart failure. Okay, acute heart failure, and tezosentan is non-selective ETA and ETB receptor antagonist. Okay, ETA and ETB receptor antagonist, and this is used. Let's see the uses of this tezosentan. Tezosentan is an intravenous endothelin receptor AB antagonist. Okay, tezosentan is an intravenous endothelin receptor AB antagonist. Tezosentan was initially developed for the vasodilation in patients with acute heart failure. Okay, and this is used in the treatment of CHF, liver diseases, and the heart diseases. Tezosentan is used in the treatment of the liver diseases, heart diseases, and the liver diseases. Okay, so this is all about tezosentan. Tezosentan is an intravenous endothelin receptor AB antagonist. Okay, receptor A and receptor B antagonist is this, and tezosentan was developed for the vasodilation in the patient with acute heart failure. Okay, but study shown that it doesn't assist in the treatment of dyspnea and prevent the cardiovascular event. Okay, recent studies have shown that it does not assist in the treatment of the dyspnea and to prevent the cardiovascular events. Okay, so this is all about the tezosentan. Okay, so let's see the some MCQs regarding this topic. Tezosentan is used for congestive heart failure, liver diseases, heart diseases, and all the above. So the correct answer is all the above, because this tezosentan is used in the treatment of the congestive heart failure. It is used in the treatment of the liver diseases, the treatment of the heart diseases. So correct answer is the option D, all the above. Next is endothelin. Endothelin is a neurohormone, enzyme, both or none. So endothelin is a neurohormone. Okay, endothelin is the neurohormone that bind with the endothelin receptor A and endothelin receptor B. After binding with endothelin receptor A and B, what happens? That increases the blood pressure in the arterial. Okay, in the pulmonary arteries, the blood pressure is increased. So this is the endothelin. So endothelin is a neurohormone. CHF occurs when there is more demand in oxygen, less demand in oxygen, both, and fourth one is none. So congestive heart failure occurs when there is a more demand in oxygen. Okay, congestive heart failure occurs when there is more demand in oxygen, because this is the state when heart is not able to pump sufficient blood. Okay, CHF is the condition where the heart is not able to pump sufficient blood to meet the body's requirement. When the blood is not sufficiently pumped by the heart, there is supply of the oxygen will get reduced. Okay, when the supply of the oxygen will get reduced, at that time the demand of the oxygen will increases than its supply. So this is the condition of the congestive heart failure. The cardiac glycosides are present, digitalis, squil, strophanthus, or the above. So the cardiac glycosides are present in digitalis, squil, strophanthus, or the above is the correct answer. Non-sugar portion of the glycoside is known as aglycone, glycone, both, and none. So the non-sugar portion of the glycoside is known as aglycone, whereas the sugar portion is known as glycone moiety. Okay. So this is all about this CHF, congestive heart failure, the treatment of the congestive heart failure. I hope everybody understood it very well. So thank you.